WV UNCommonplace. This podcast is a variety podcast that houses numerous series to cover mental health, empowerment, podcast framework, and various intimate theories to get to know the hosts. Along with occasional movies reviews and dives in pop culture with our event podcast episodes. The UNCommonplace digs into bringing guests on that stories don't fit the mold and are very different. WV stands for the great state of West Virginia, and every quarter we cover something in West Virginia. Stacey and myself, JR, are your hosts, so please come along for this venture to our UNCommonplace.
Hey everybody, this is JR from West Virginia and Commonplace, and I am here to tell you about Anchor Nebula and their Go Anywhere series of projectors. They are some of the best projectors you can use when you're on the go, going camping, just even around the house. And these models include the Capsule 2, the Capsule 3 laser, and the brand new Mars 3. So definitely take time to go out and grab one of these projectors, and you will be immersed in an experience that you're not going to get anywhere else. Remember, Anchor Nebula is the way to go. Howdy everybody, this is JR. Welcome to West Virginia and Commonplace. This episode right here is entitled Vulnerability. And this is another one of these podcasts for podcaster episodes because I want to give some true insight onto some things that go on that some people experience and some people have not experienced just yet, but you will experience later on. And this is not an episode about pod fading or anything wild like that. This is just about when you get out here and you put out a product and you're continuously doing this 500 episodes deep. That's how far I'm in the game. And it's the mental aspects that we don't talk about. And the one that I want to touch on first is this real simple thing. They talk about imposter syndrome, but I'm not going to talk about imposter syndrome. I want to talk about doing too much, doing it too fast. Now, in my case, I do record my shows at a rate that is pretty quick and pretty fast because I want to have those episodes ready to go so that I can do all the marketing, advertising that I need to do for them or get those episodes lined up properly. And when I do these things, it works out good for me and it works out better for everybody around me because I'm able to just do the episodes and get them out the way. But the problem comes in when you start aligning it up with certain things and you start curating these things. And then, you know, it's two different types of people out here. It's some people that are going to have a good way and a good method of being able to decipher like, hey, I'm doing episodes. These episodes will do a certain thing for me here and there. No, we can't forecast what's going to happen with the shows. We can't forecast how things are going to happen when it comes to if people are going to listen to them or not. But here's where the mental anguish comes in. When you plan something really good and you really think that it's going to be good and the execution comes off poor, that is something that we don't talk about. And that's something that makes you deteriorate as a podcaster over time. So my thought is this: when you're working on these things and you have these things going on, you don't like let yourself get all bothered and worried about these things. And to be honest here, this is what happened to me. I put out these episodes. I was doing these interview episodes and I was really proud of them, and they took a lot of work to do them. So this is how the process goes. You find the guest through whatever service. I use Podmatch to find the guest, and they take out a lot of the headache that you have to, like researching the person, blah, 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 to a certain degree. You still need to formulate your own questions, but they even have like little I call them punch questions that you could go by, and you could use those and then just go with the flow of the show. Now, some people do an unscripted show. I do a scripted show to a degree like this. I plan out the show. I don't sit there and write a literal script for the show and keep going from there. But you get out here, and in my case, I was doing these interview episodes, and I just put a few out, and I'm seeing a little difference in them, but I moved away from them for a long time because I would do these interview episodes. The guests, I didn't care if they shared them or not because that was not the point of it. It was the point that they gave their time to bring them out, and I would go from there. But what happened to me is like the listeners, it was so hard to connect these things because when you're doing an interview show, you really have to consider what's going to go before, what's going to go after, and how does it make sense in the long run. So some people have it very well laid out that they can find their guest and lay out 4 guests that are going to match up correctly. And sometimes I can do that and sometimes I don't, depending on the content. Like obviously I had Colin Leonard on and he had a Halloween type story. So that felt went very good into the October 31st episode because he talked about Halloween and a little bit of the spooky folklore of Ireland. Now, let's go into another step. I decided I want to do some shows about projectors. I've got to figure out when's a good time to do shows about projectors. Is that something that can come on Thursday, or is it something that can come on my fun spot on Saturdays? Then I did something else that I didn't know was going to be competition later. Sparrows Under Review is a totally different show than what I do. But over time, the popularity of Sparrows Under Review has gotten to a point where it's just a little bit, the numbers between both shows are not equal. My show's still doing better than that, but that show is gaining way more traction and attracting better retention and newer listeners. I'm keeping my legacy listeners, but that kind of started putting a little mental pause on me and kind of had me like in a rut, because I was kind of like, why am I having these issues right now? What am I doing with my normal podcast that I'm not able to do with the hobby podcast? And the hobby podcast is fun because Stacy and I, it's camaraderie and we're able to talk and do things. But on the production end, and a lot of other podcasters can agree with me on this, where I do the editing and all the other stuff to get the ball rolling there. Since the main podcast is West Virginia and Commonplace is already done, I have more time now to do that kind of stuff. But in turn, what hurts me is like I get out here and I see how well Sparrows Under Review is doing, and its downloads per day do better than my show. But my show in the long run, in the long scheme of things, does better with a 7-day download. So I'm kind of like, what's missing from my show? So you tweak it. I got rid of the interviews for a while. I'm doing these smaller episodes, 5-minute, 8-minute episodes, and people are listening to them and they're enjoying them. And then I get feedback back and people are like, man, we're really enjoying this, but where are the interviews? But then when I do the interviews, it's crickets. It's nothing. So it's like, as a podcaster, I'm trying to figure out, like, how do I fix this? Like, do I take my third podcast and just turn that into the interview podcast? And that's where I come to this hard spot. And this is where this vulnerability comes in, because you sit there and you get mad. I got really mad because I'm putting no effort into Sparrows Under Review when it comes to marketing and advertising, and it's flourishing. In West Virginia and Commonplace, I'm sitting here literally like pumping this thing full of stuff, like sort of like the Batman character Bane, how Bane gets all that muscle and stuff from that juice that goes in his body, and he gets really buffer than what he normally is when he's a wrestler. That's what I do for West Virginia and Commonplace. But Sparrows Under Review, we just turn on the mics, we pick certain topics. We don't have listeners telling us exactly what topics to do. We just do whatever we want, and it flows. So here comes the next pickle. The more and more I'm doing this, the more and more I'm getting mad. And I'm getting frustrated and getting angry because I'm like, hey, we record Sparrows Under Review on a limited schedule. You know, next week's episode is the last episode I have in the tank for that one. And I've got to get Stacy in the studio, and we have to formulate ideas to take care of the rest of the episodes. Now, in turn, we have a smooth system of how we do things. We have events, which are Comic-Cons, because we're a society culture podcast, that we're going to be involved with. And we have my other endeavor where I want to get more into having a roving movie theater. So I'm trying to reach out to people, and I'm doing that on the side. So it's kind of like I'm branching off in other areas. But the main focus on West Virginia and Commonplace has come to the point where I'm like, I like the 5-minute episodes. I like the quick stuff. Like even what I'm doing right now, which this is going to be an episode I plug in on Saturday to take away from the episodes that I already have about the whatever the Rise and Fall TV series that I'm covering. But I wanted to get this out there for other podcasters because I wanted them to know that it's all right to be vulnerable. It's all right to get upset. It's all right to get mad, because I got really pissed off. I mean, I got to the point where I was like, man, I hate you, West Virginia and Commonplace. Why are the listeners flocking to Sparrows Under Review in a rapid manner? But then I got to remember, it's a fresh take. The design of it, the difference in how we're approaching it is way different than what I do with West Virginia and Commonplace. West Virginia and Commonplace, I treat like a heavy business. I give it the business mentality, and I give it the business fold. And the vulnerability comes in because when it doesn't do something that's satisfactory, I'm not looking for the sense of like, I don't want anyone to think that like when I see success, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a satisfactory result of not analytics, but like the experience, like people are actually liking that show. And the difference between that and Sparrows Under Review is I can see that people truly enjoy Sparrows Under Review. I'm getting feedback. I'm getting more information about that show than I get about the other show. So I'm just like, Rrr. And then my archival show is just what it is. That is a pure hobby show. That's purely for people that listen to both podcasts or haven't listened to West Virginia and Commonplace in the past, and I give them the episodes that have heavy downloads. I'm like, hey, these episodes I'll put out here for the people so these people can get these and they can fit in where they get in. Now, on that note, after doing all this and all that stuff, you sit back and then you just let the results happen. I'm not one of these people. I don't care about 72 hours. I care about the 7-day load. I care about the 14-day load. I care about the 30 days after I release a show type deal. Those are the things that keep me going. Those are the things that make it to where I am happy and I have a smile on my face and I can walk away from, a week of not doing it. Because I'm going on vacation after this podcast comes out on Saturday. I'm not taking any phone calls. I'm not doing anything inside podcasting. I'm just going to live my normal life. And it feels really good. It works out sometimes. And then when it doesn't work out, I get pissed off. So, like always, this is West Virginia and Commonplace. And this episode is a podcast episode entitled Vulnerability, because I got vulnerable. I'll let y'all know a little bit about the mental anguish that I go through with competing against myself with my other shows. And that's something that's a reality. And even if you're not, some people are competing against other shows, which I don't suggest you do. Just do your show and enjoy it and let the flow happen. The hobby show makes me way more proud of what I'm doing than West Virginia and Commonplace is doing at the moment. And that'll change because I'll be doing different things. And like I said, I'll be doing more interviews. I'll be doing, when the wintertime comes out, I'll be heavier pushing, getting guests on and getting stuff lined up. So in January, if you want to be on this podcast, hit me up at wvuncommonplace@gmail.com. Also, check out Sparrows Under Review on all podcast players. It has an Instagram. It has a TikTok. Like, follow, share, and check me out on TikTok. I'm always out there. So once again, I'm JR from West Virginia and Commonplace, and I am signing off.
Please follow WV Uncommonplace on Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, TikTok, where we have some great content, Facebook, LinkedIn. Hit up the merch store at oneself.square.site. Join the email list from the website and rate, subscribe, and give feedback from your favorite podcatcher. And lastly, thanks for listening and tune into the next episode.
Hey Capshovians, mark your calendars for January 23rd and 24th as we bring you the first ever Capshovians Live in Orlando. We are bringing together a dozen expert speakers to dive deep into the just one, key strategy you need to scale your marketing and your business in 2024. You get an exclusive peek into the future of the Capsho software and connect with leading industry figures. Whether you're looking to network with fellow entrepreneurs, learn from top-notch experts, or just want a memorable experience, this is the place to be. We are keeping this event intentionally intimate so that you're not just another face in a crowded room. Yes, we want to get to know each and every one of you, so spots are very limited, which means you're going to need to grab your ticket now. Go to www.capshovianslive.com and get in on the early bird pricing before it goes up. That's www.capshovianslive.com, and let's take on 2024 together.